Welcome to the Get Trauma Informed podcast, dedicated to unraveling the complexities of trauma, its pervasive impact, and the journey towards holistic recovery and realignment. If your radiance has ever felt muted, like I and thousands of others, you're in the right place to reignite your inner light. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast. Well, hello, and welcome to week number 10. Wow, we are slowly getting to week number 12 in our series on military trauma. Hope you've been picking up some great information and great nuggets along the way. Last week was a big week for us. We explored boundaries. And for some people, that seems simple. That seems like, oh, that's what we do. No is there's power in the word no. But for those that have suffered through trauma and or on the other side of it, it's challenging for us to say no. And so therefore, we are going to go into week number 10 of our journey. We're going to go into that and we're going to talk a little bit about relapse and why relapse isn't failure. Ooh, that's a big one. Relapse isn't failure. We just build a plan for the days that we fall apart, right? And for me, for those days that are just overwhelming and too much, I actually scratch them off of the calendar. Whatever we can do, whatever systems we can put into place to help us to stay in recovery and to help us to be more patient and more kind and more merciful with ourselves, those are the little steps, the little nuances that we must put into place to help us to stay in recovery. All righty, so on to week 10 of the Warrior Within. We're going to dive into talking about something that no recovery journey is without, even though we're afraid to admit it. Relapse is real. Whether it's a return to a toxic relationship, a substance, negative thoughts, avoidance, relapse happens. But here's what I want you to hear loud and clear today. Relapse is a part of recovery, not the end of it. It's another piece in trauma recovery. Everything is heightened, right? We're always on that stress response button. And therefore, we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But trauma recovery helps us to pull all that in, right? And so we understand that everything is not the end. I know for me, if I didn't pay my bills ahead of time, I would get into a frenzy. I can't let it go past the due date, even though we have grace periods and all these other things, but it would be so agonizing for me to go past the due date. So everything feels like, okay, this is it. This is the end. And we're always bracing and preparing ourselves for that. But in recovery, we must give ourselves the grace and understand that relapse is a part of recovery, not the end of it. Okay. So what is relapse and trauma recovery? Relapse doesn't always mean using again. For trauma survivors, it can look like isolating yourself. Again, that's kryptonite. Shutting down emotionally, self-sabotage in relationships or goals, ignoring routines or coping strategies, going back to what felt familiar, even if it wasn't safe. Wow. Wow. How does that resonate with you? Why does this happen? Relapse is often the result of triggered stacking. That's too many stressors at one time. Get into that overwhelmed sensation. Shame or grief, that flares up. Reacting, when we react versus responding, right? It's that knee-jerk reaction. Reaching new levels of healing that brings deeper wounds to the surface. Because remember, we're practicing up and out, not swallow and siphon it and bury it, because trauma is progressive. It'll come up at an inopportune moment And there we are. We have to deal with those consequences. Okay. Fatigue from holding it all together, because it can feel like we are juggling 12 balls in the air and, oh, wait a minute, not one more, not one more. Oop, here come the other one, right? It doesn't mean you're weak. I want you to really hear that. It means your nervous system is overwhelmed and it needs support. So let me give you a little bit more insight from the life of the trauma-informed girl. There were times I went back to old habits that numbed me. And workaholism, that's one that numbed me. Even when I knew better, I knew that it didn't make sense for me to sit almost 12 hours without moving. I knew my legs would stiffen up. I would have challenges. I would have issues with seeing. I knew there were issues with that, but I would do it anyway. But I learned this. Shame makes you hide, but grace lets you rise. Recovery is about making a plan for the storm, not pretending that the rain won't come. And I lived in that denial, right? Doesn't mean the rain is not going to come. It means that we're making a plan and preparing for it. All right, our spiritual reflection for today, it comes from Proverbs 24:16, which says, though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. Not because they never fail, but because they never stayed down. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Our reflective prompt for this week in our journal, remember this is a progressive journey to recovery. So what does relapse look like for you? And what safety plan do you need to put into place for those days, right? Even if it's a day that you have to stop and take a day from everything, a mental health day, or a just a step back and unplug day or time. And then again, we go back to the boundaries, because if others don't respect it, we have to put things into place to make sure that they respect those boundaries as we're respecting those boundaries. Let's learn to fall with grace and rise with strategy. All right, I hope something resonated with you today. Look forward to week number 10. And until then, make sure that you give yourself grace and stay fearless. Bye for now. It's time to buckle up. No more suffering in silence. Our Power Pack journey to recovery and realignment starts now. Remember, you are collateral damage on someone else's warpath. Trauma is not your fault. Recovery, however, is your responsibility. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast.